To develop a good strategy and define projects for the development of a company or even a country depends on being able to predict, adapt, and act in response to the forces of the context. However, this is not a simple task. First, we have the tremendous range of variables and elements that constitute what we usually call the context. These variables come from different dimensions, mainly the economic dimension, the political dimension, and the social dimension. Second, we have strong interrelationships between these variables, and it's not very easy to isolate the effect of one variable from the effect of the other variables. Third, they have different intensity of impact according to the type of firm, business model, industry, or even according to the country. So depending on our previous experience in different countries and firms, we have different understanding of the force of these variables. And fourth, they are extremely dynamic and they change constantly. So it's difficult to understand, and it's not useful to understand static effects of these variables. What we are really interested in understanding is the changes by time and the dynamic effect of these variables. So in order to tackle this difficult task of understanding the environment, we are going to focus on 4 dimensions: the geography, politics, economy, and society. And we are going to try to understand how they interact each other in 3 temporal dimensions. In the short term, we're going to focus on balances and vulnerabilities. In the middle term, in competitiveness and productivity, that basically determine how the country growth, the economic growth, and develops. And third, in the long term, what is the strategy of the country and how the different interest groups in the country organize the society in order to achieve the strategy of the country. So short-term balances and vulnerabilities are important because they define the short-term stability or the short-term predictability in a country. We are basically talking about the equilibrium that there exists between different flows and different forces in a country, basically in the economic, in the politics, and in the society. These we are going to work on 5 most important balances. The 3 most important in the economy: the fiscal balance, the monetary balance, and the balance of payments. When we are talking about politics, we are interested in the power balances that exist between different interest groups, and also the power balance that exists between the government and the rest of the society. And when we talk about the social balance, we are referring to the family income balance, the balance between family incomes and the cost of living, and also to inequality, income inequality in the society. Vulnerabilities are weak balances. So there are balances that could change suddenly and unexpectedly and can have a very create hard situations in the society. So we need to understand when we have a weak balance. Also, we need to understand the possible shocks that could alter that weak balance, and understand if the country, the government, has any hedging instruments or counter-cyclical instruments that could be used to reduce the impact of the crisis created by the sudden imbalance in the equilibriums in the economy, or social equilibriums, or political equilibriums. When we talk about competitiveness and productivity, we are focusing on growth of the economy and development of the economy and the society. So when we talk about competitiveness and productivity, we are focusing on trying to understand the growth of the economy and the development of the economy and the country. When we talk about competitiveness, we refer to how competitive are exports in the world markets, and also how competitive are domestic products against imports. And the determinants of competitiveness we are going to try to understand and analyze are the real exchange rate and how the real exchange rate affects competitiveness of exports and domestic products against imports, how labor cost affects competitiveness, the infrastructure cost, and the tax burden. And we're gonna work also a lot on productivity and understand how productivity affects competitiveness, and also how productivity affects growth and development. And we're going to work on many processes and variables. Just to introduce productivity, we are going to focus on capital or physical capital, human capital, basically education, the capabilities of the society, technology, entrepreneurship, and economies of scale and scope, and also the structure, the productive structure of the society, and value-added activities in the society. How important are they in the economic structure of the country? Strategy and organization. Basically, here we consider the aspirations, the objectives of the society, and how they organize the society in order to achieve those objectives. Mainly, we want to work on how stable and predictable are countries in their path to achieve those strategies, and that's going to be determined by leadership, what the leaders of the country and the leaders of the most powerful interest groups want to achieve, and also institutions, the rules of the game, and how these rules make predictable actions from the different individuals in the society, in order that those actions help to achieve the objectives, the development objectives of the society. We are going to talk also about openness and freedom in politics and economics and in the society. Basically, how plural is the country and how democracy evolved. Also social freedom and openness of different interest groups and different individuals to the political game, and participate in discussions and participate in decision making in the society. And finally, economic and market freedom, which are important to understand how different individuals have access to different means of living, education, work, but also entrepreneurship and access to different economic means to develop firms and companies. And finally, we are going to talk about external openness, basically how the country is integrated with other countries in the world, politically integrated and bargaining power. Most of the trade and flow of capital occurs between countries that are friendly with each other and have trade agreements and capital agreements. Also, we can include also labor agreements. So it's very important how the country is integrated with the rest of the world politically, and also how trade open is the country to flows, imports and export, flows of goods between different countries, and also the agreements for capital flow and capital openness.